Welcome to another episode of You Can't Make This Shit Up. This is David Washington. I'm Joel Hoxley. We're your host on the Jay and Washington Network. Thank you, John, for your production. Seventh Legion Multimedia. Did I say it right?
Yes,
Yay! I
yes.
did it right. So, yeah, thank you very much for being here. We couldn't do this without you. We found that out.
Literally.
We found that out this morning. So I'm excited. But David, the episode is transgender isn't real. Uh,
Or trans people don't exist is the title,
oh, trans. This
and
is yeah. Okay, so
it this stems from a Florida bill. I'm sorry.
I can do it.
Okay, you got this.
I got it.
Okay,
It's
all
right
right,
there.
he's
See,
got this.
I'm going to see if I can do it from the far.
Okay,
Florida's latest bill sends shockwaves as it aims to eradicate all legal recognition of transgender individuals, mandating mass biological sex affidavits. Who wrote this? This is really like technical words for both transgender and cisgender residents during DMV license renewal. The state seeks to uh, an unprecedented level of information on the its citizens. Holy crap, David! This is interesting.
very controversial.
So,
And
biology, male, female. That's the only thing that should be on your driver's license. Period.
well, this is just again a steady, slow march to eradicating privacy here in Florida. Privacy of the individual. We talked about this before, and with the abortion issue. And so I don't understand this war on people, because whether you're, biologically this or that or whatever, it's still a war on us as individuals. And to specifically target the transgender community with legislation, which makes me think, is this really the priority right now? And I understand some clarity to the laws. I get that. I do. However, I believe we're going into um, an area that will damage, if not eradicate, our protections, our freedoms to privacy as individuals.
So so kind of explain that to me, because like I don't. I think the transgender. So,
Or they're coming for the transgender community. They're going to come
wait,
for
wait, coming for,
women, coming
but you're saying,
for
you say that
minorities.
we
It's just a
we say
steady
we're
march towards marginalizing and and pretty much eh, ending protections for certain communities.
okay. So certain see, I don't get that. Like we're trying to create right now. See, this is the thing. There's a push to uh, normalize the transgender, the transitioning of males and females. So, well, what we're trying to say is, so biologically, throw that out the window. Your biological sex doesn't matter, because we're going to try to create this brand new community, which this community exists. Don't get me wrong.
It's always existed.
Yeah, I mean, but now we're we're going to take the drug. Now you have to take the drug. It's that the transition. There's people that don't fully transition, so they still have their biological genitals, but they have a physical. Um, they physically don't look the same. Some of these trans. See, this is my again. I have
But the,
trouble trying to figure out, is a trans man actually
biologically a woman.
biologically a woman, and then a trans. It's still
Woman.
it's still confusing. So I'm like, I'm trying to make sure that I have it correct,
Correct.
and it's not being taught to me correctly by the community that's trying to sell it to me, because
I don't
I'm
think they're
trying to
trying to
say,
sell something to you.
well, they are.
Educate. educate you, and then
Education is sales. So if I educate you to tell you a product or a norm, this is a psychological
or you just
sale.
give me information for me to make a decision on whether or not I want to subscribe to that ideology or not, or subscribe to this particular podcast or not, or buy this particular product or
Uh-huh.
not, or to learn a little bit more about the community around me. That's education.
Well, I'm trying to figure out. So if I say trans male, that is a
Biologically,
that's a female
yes.
moving into the role of a male, right? So that would be physically a woman would be a trans male, and a trans female.
I don't
See,
know.
that's
And
why.
so
See, that's so that's why.
we should invite one of our transgendered
Right, but that's what I'm trying. That's
friends
what I'm
of
trying
the
to say.
show to sit and have this
Right, and
conversation
so,
with
so
us.
that's what I'm trying to say. I still get confused on it. It's like trying to learn my left and my right. Right. I learned that by using my hands when I was younger.
Mhm.
If it's left if my thumb makes an L, it's right if it's the wrong letter. I mean,
Sure.
that's how I taught
Right.
my kids. And then it's like we still have people in the military. Left turn, and they turn right.
It's just in our particular time, um, this has become more and more. Sexuality has become more of an issue. It's at the forefront of a lot of our news. Um, my issue is that there is maybe too much by conservatives, by Republicans, too much concern about what happens in our own personal decision making. And I believe that conservatives and Republicans are encroaching on, or some conservatives and some Republicans are encroaching on our individual freedoms to make decisions that affect ourselves and the people we care for.
But does this actually affect their decision making?
Yes, if you're taking away,
You're taking away
the
something that doesn't exist.
if you're taking away transgender individuals' um, ability to say, "Hey, I am a female," even though I was a biologically a male, but I identify as female. I
As long as
every
you
day every day I live my life, I'm a female, and I should be able to apply for my driver's license as a female. I go to work as a female. I do my laundry as a female. I go to the grocery store as a female. I do things that are female to me.
but
That's the perspective I'm taking.
when you have a penis, I'm sorry, you are not a female. Like at the end of the day, like that's not who you are biologically. If you were to be if you have female on your driver's license, but you are a technical male, and I then get your driver's license and I go to perform medical treatment that only and give you a drug that only can be administered to a woman,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to kill you and not intentionally. That's not right for the medical professional that's trying to save your life to not know that it's not natural. You're not a male. You're not a female. Listen, there's
But
dangers
is that
to
going to stop?
health.
But that's not going to
That's
stop
your
someone
driver's
from.
license.
But that's not going to stop someone from trying to save my life. At least if there was an attempt to save my life, if I'm identified as a transgender female, and I get into a car accident, and I'm going to need life saving treatment, I want them to not have to scurry around, and look in my, purse or whatever for a driver's license. I want them to try to save my life, whether I'm male, female, transgender, or whatever.
Okay, and
I don't think that's going to stop.
but I don't think you're
I'm not
wearing.
gonna.
I don't think you're wearing a medical alert bracelet that says, "Hey, I am a transgender. I'm a male, I'm a female. That would be important. Hey, why don't we make that the rule? Hey, if you want to be something outside the norm, put it on a medical bracelet. I want you to be safe. I want to be able to save your life. I mean, yes, it's minuscule, the possibilities that I do something wrong, but I really want to be responsible to save you. If I take and I don't see breasts, and I think you're suffering something that a man would be suffering from, and I go to treat you for something like a heart attack and you're not having one because I thought you were a man and the symptoms were for a man, there's got to be a way to protect life. And this is where I think that we get a little out of control. Look, I want you to be whatever you want to be. I will treat you whatever you look like, I will treat you that way. Whatever you want to be. But I want to be literally legally responsible for the right choices. And if you're looking like a man and you're a woman and you're having symptoms of something that a man is typically different from a female, you're in danger. You're endangering your own life if you don't have some way to identify your
Yeah.
natural gender.
Okay, but wouldn't you be protected under the Good Samaritan law? But before you answer that, I would hope that if any of this type of legislation that's presented by any of our representatives uh, had the consultation from the someone or organization representing the transgender community, and that this type of legislation was not presented in a void, and that could answer some of the questions that you have. That there was some consultation, that there was this particular representative from this particular organization representing the transgender community, the LGBTQ, et cetera, community, that had some say in this.
If I'm a
And I doubt
legislator,
it.
and if I'm a
And I
legislator,
doubt it.
if I'm a legislator, I'm sure that the transgender community sent lobbyists up there to tell me why
No.
to tell me why I should. There's plenty of lobbyists in the LGBTQIA plus community that are up there in Tallahassee telling people what to do. So I guarantee you somebody's told somebody something. And listen, you come to my office, I'm going to tell you, listen, tell me how it's going to save your life. Tell me, as government, my job is to protect life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Okay, the happiness part you got, the liberty, I understand. The safety is the problem. Is as long as men and women have different systems for different things, I want to know your gender biologically for that reason, and that reason only. I I I, I don't have a problem with the transgender community. I think it's choice is choice is choice. Whatever you feel, you feel. Whatever you do, you do. That's freedom. That's why you come to this country. And look, I still think the gender thing is important until you can tell me that it's not life saving to know somebody's gender. Then I'm on the side of, look, biology. Right now, until you can tell me a way to protect you outside that, that's my position. That's my position. Not conservative or liberal. I want you to have the right to not reproduce. I want you to have the right to not, have that, penis that you don't want. Look, I get it. I get it. And it's not as heartfelt as I want you to be safe and I want government to protect life. And that's why I say I don't see it as intrusive as you do, to at least know what gender you are biologically. Once you transition, I don't even know if the symptoms change, but at
Right.
least identify somehow that I can help you in a crisis. And
Right.
yes, we have laws like the Good Samaritan law to try to protect you for killing somebody.
Mhm.
They, unfortunately, because you didn't know that you weren't supposed to stick your hand in the chest wound and grab the heart and pull it out.
I understand your safety piece. And you bring up something that maybe we should further explore, and also our viewers and listeners may want to explore also. Representative Dean Black. He represents the 15th district. I believe that's somewhere near Jacksonville because he's from Jacksonville. He's a Republican. His legislative aide is Cam Brown. His district aides are Lacey Mahan and George Spicer. And he was first elected to the state legislature in 2022. And he is the sponsor of this particular legislation. So if members of the community would like to contact his office, he can be contacted at 805 area code 717-5015. That's in Tallahassee, and his local office number is in Jacksonville, 904-383-1239. And we can ask them as a community, what was the purpose of this type of legislation? What was the intent? What is the influence behind this particular bill? And did he have any commentary, any input from the transgender community to produce this particular bill?
And make sure you word this correctly, because if you're not a constituent, yeah, constituent services is not available to you. You have to go through your, I have to call David Smith to get those answers technically to find out where he supports this legislation, and if I want to, actually get an answer from,
No,
on
I'm just asking our community just to ask what
I'm
was the
letting
motivation behind this
and I'm-
particular bill, and only Dean
and I'm letting people know,
Black can answer
and
this.
I'm letting people know that if they're going to call for that, it has to be specifically with the question that I want to know what the legislation is and what the motivation was behind the
Right.
legislation.
I think that was clear.
But make sure you're not calling just to be a protest vote in there, because they have work to do. So I'm talking
Oh, sure.
constituent services.
Just some clarification.
Right.
What was the motivation behind this bill? Was the transgender community involved in crafting this bill? Did he have any input in the crafting of this bill? That's all.
Yeah, and typically that stuff is all available for you to, already. But yeah, if you want to call as legislative aides, and that's good. But quickest way to get that answer is to call your legislator, because they will answer you directly, because they have to, because you are that constituent. Because these guys get busy, they will not answer your question uh, in a timely manner if you're not their constituents. So be prepared for that, and don't hold it against them if they're not answering your question in a timely manner, because constituents come first and protests come later.
It's not a protest.
It is a protest.
No, it's not. It's just asking a question. What
Right.
was the motivation behind the bill? That's all.
Which is in the
And as the sponsor of the bill, he should be able to explain that, as if he showed up on C-SPAN and the moderator asked him, so what was the motivation behind House Bill 1639?
So 1,200 calls on the same.
Why not?
For the same thing?
Why
you
not?
could just read his.
He represents Florida.
Jacksonville.
He represents Jacksonville.
Right.
Our friends in Jacksonville can call from his district.
That's what I'm telling you. They're the ones who are going to get the
our
answer.
Friends in Orlando, our friends in Tampa, our friends in Miami,
and the people that actually want to read the press release that on the legislation that he sent out.
And the last time I checked, there was no lobbyists who were attached to this, if I recall.
That have actually, so there's no lobbyist attached to it actually inquiring about it. So then the transgender community is failing.
Or was involved with it, yeah, in crafting it.
Because even if you have questions about it and you want to have a say on it, you should be connected to it. So the LGBTQ community hasn't had any inquiry about it. That's very interesting.
I'm going under the thought that the transgender community had no involvement in this bill. And I'd like to know the motivation as to why not.
Because there's no transgender community that you can pick up the phone and call?
There's LGBTQ organizations across Florida. But exactly what did Representative Dean Black do in consultation with the LGBTQ community to discuss this bill and how it will affect members of their community.
Again, this is great. This is great legislation. It saves your life. So let's make sure that your driver's license has your biological, uh, birth, biological birth gender on it, because it's important that we know who you are when we try to save your life. And that's the whole purpose of having a driver's license, is to identify you and to identify the things that are possible. Like, I would suggest that anybody who wants to be like myself, maybe David, I'm an organ donor, and the only way you know I'm an organ donor is by my driver's license. And thank you very much for the opportunity to be able to be an organ donor. And thank you for identifying me as a veteran on my ID, which I have to pay extra for, and all the wonderful things. And guess what? If you cannot afford your driver's license in the state of Florida, because we are so, you know, up to speed on getting you the voting rights, since we do ID at voting, you can get your ID for free if you have a hardship. So guess what? The Florida legislature is thinking of you. Thank you very much. And David, I'm glad you brought this topic up, because this has been a lot of fun.
And the larger picture of things is just a slow eradication of our privacy as individuals. Just saying.
Well, the only privacy you have with the gender thing is when you're born.
It's more
the
than just
certificate-
gender.
When you're
It's
born,
more than just gender,
when you're-
Joel. Let's not pigeonhole this into just gender.
It's
It's
just-
more than just
this is
gender.
just gender.
Yeah.
As far as I see it, it's just gender, but that's my opinion. And David, thank you for bringing the topic up. Hey, if you're a girl, if you're a boy, and you want to be the other side, you know, that's fine. No, please like, share, and reach out to us. And if you are transgender, please reach out to us, because I really want to have the conversation. I really want to have the conversation, because I really, truly am that open-minded where I want to have a conversation. I want you on our show. I want you to be working on that legislation, like David said. Like, share, reach out to us, have a conversation. We are more than welcome. Subscribe. Best way to find out what's going on.
I'm coming for you, Dean.